Hello everyone, this is Jack Frost back with your weekly update for XRP and the Ethereum technicals. As it has been a couple of weeks since my previous video, I will be doing a full update for these markets, though as I mentioned in my previous video, we will not be covering 100% of these markets going forward. On the Ethereum technicals, price has declined after its last short-term high, finding resistance at 41.30, this hanging man candlestick just here. Price for the very short term moves a little bit sideways, hovering just below resistance at 35.80. Volume on the weekly timeframe for Ethereum supports downwards movement with the push on this bearish candlestick just here, though for the very short term a push onto this bullish candlestick here does offer a little bit of support for upwards movement. ADX is declining at the weekly timeframe, showing no clear trend. RSI is declining after this bearish divergence just here, getting closer to squarely in neutral territory towards 50. Money flow in the same situation as RSI, getting closer to 50. ATR is increasing for the very short term as price declines and moves a little bit sideways. Stochastics is neutral and declining, having entered overbought where price found its previous short-term high. And as ADX does indicate no clear trend, we use the model of stochastics plus support and resistance, which suggests a downward swing may occur at this point, towards support down at 2800 or potentially down to 2400, where price finds one of these support points, while stochastics may enter oversold. On the Ethereum technical daily chart, we can see a little bit more detail for price's recent decline. For the very short term, hovering around support resistance, currently support at 3200. For the short term, we see more detail for the recent pushes on bearish candlesticks, seeing volume to support downwards movement at the daily timeframe as well as the weekly timeframe, though overall volume is weakening. ADX is increasing on the daily timeframe with an extreme bearish trend. This is extreme as the ADX line is above both DX lines, though it is not yet very extreme as it is quite a ways away from 45, where it would reach very extreme at that point. On balance, volume has broken out of resistance, giving a bullish signal. This is a somewhat reasonable bullish signal, though not the strongest, as this line did only have a mild slope, though it was a noticeable slope, and it did have these 4 tests here. Despite that, it was not very long held on the daily timeframe. RSI is neutral and declining quite squarely in neutral territory for the time being. Money flow is also neutral quite squarely around 50. This gives both RSI and money flow quite a bit of room to move before they may enter overbought or oversold. ATR has increased quite steeply as price has moved sideways for the short term, declining a little bit for the very short term. And as this trend indicated by ADX is extreme, though it is not very extreme, while RSI and money flow are both neutral and do not exhibit any divergence for the short term, the trend may continue to where ADX reaches and may remain in very extreme conditions, while RSI and money flow may exhibit some divergence or enter oversold before the trend may be in danger of ending at the daily timeframe. Please note that at this point we do rely very heavily on the Elliott Wave count for Ethereum. If you do want updates for that, we do an update for that every Tuesday, New York time. At pureelliottwave.com, you can always sign up for that using the link in the description below. On the XRP weekly chart, price has continued upwards and is expected to continue upwards for these overlapping third waves at primary, intermediate, and minor degrees, with minor wave 3 currently within its final stages. When it arrives, intermediate wave 4 cannot move into intermediate wave 1 price territory below 0.9301. And we have these targets for intermediate and primary degrees. For intermediate wave 3, it uses the 6.854 ratio between that and intermediate wave 1, giving us a target at 6.11. While for primary wave 3, it uses the 14.72 ratio between that and primary wave 1, giving it a target at 27.44. We also have these Fibonacci numbers that may give us an idea for where these waves may be labeled complete, as we can see Fibonacci numbers exhibited in the durations of various Elliott waves. If intermediate wave 3 lasts a Fibonacci 233 days, it may end around February 23rd, 2025, while for primary wave 3, if it lasts a Fibonacci 144 weeks, it may end around August 18th, 2025. This wave count now seeing these third waves to continue higher, particularly within their middle and final stages. This should come with an increase in range and momentum. We have this base channel drawn around the primary degree movements from the beginning of primary wave 1 to the end of primary wave 2 with a copy on the end of primary wave 1. All of those points are to the left of the chart and shown on the monthly chart. This has offered some good support, particularly for the end of intermediate wave 2, and may offer some resistance for the ends of waves like minor wave 3 before intermediate wave 3 has the bullish momentum required to break above the channel. And this high with the end of minute wave 3 within minor wave 3 on the weekly chart. Is this high here on the daily chart. We can see more detail for the downwards movement labeled minute wave 4, subdividing as a regular contracting triangle. Upwards movement now expected to continue higher for minute wave 5 and the end of minor wave 3. An Elliott channel is drawn around the minute degree movements using Elliott's first technique from the end of minute wave 1 to the left of the chart to the end of minute wave 3 here, with a copy on the end of minute wave 2 also to the left of the chart. This channel may provide resistance for the upper edge of minute wave 5, though if minute wave 4 does continue any lower, it may find support at the lower edge of this channel. As it is expected to continue higher, we have a target calculated for minute wave 5 at 4.84. This uses the 1.618 Fibonacci ratio between that and minute wave 3. For the very, very short term within minute wave 5, minuet wave 2 is expected to continue a little bit lower, subdividing as an incomplete single zigzag, though as it continues, it may need to be relabeled. As minuet wave 2 continues, it cannot move below the start of minuet wave 1 at 2.200. We have an additional higher target for intermediate wave 3 that is not on the weekly chart. This is calculated at 7.60 using the 11.09 extreme Fibonacci ratio between that and intermediate wave 1. If this target, as shown on the weekly chart, is met while the structure for intermediate wave 3 remains incomplete, then we will use this higher target at that point. Along with that target, we also have an additional Fibonacci duration, seeing the possibility for intermediate wave 3 to last a Fibonacci 377 days, which would see it to end around July 17th, 2025. Additionally, for minor wave 3, we do have this Fibonacci duration here, seeing it to end around March 26th this year in 2025 if it lasts a Fibonacci 233 days. When minuet wave 2 is labeled complete, we expect an increase in upwards range and momentum, and the end of minuet wave 5 may find resistance at the upper edge of the Elliott channel as previously mentioned, though it may also break above the Elliott channel ending with a blow off top, as is common for a fifth wave ending a third wave 1 degree higher, particularly within cryptocurrencies like XRP. On the technical weekly chart for XRP, price has increased with some increasing range and momentum, finding resistance around 3.2 for the beginning of this current week, moving a little bit lower. Though as this week is incomplete, we cannot draw any hard conclusions from that candlestick. Volume is overall supporting upwards movement very clearly, with the strongest volume on these bullish candlesticks here. A decline on following bearish candlesticks does see some weakness in downwards movement, as for the very short term, price is now falling of its own weight. ADX continues to increase very steeply with a now very extreme bullish trend. This trend may remain in very extreme conditions before ADX may decline, which supports the Elliott Wave count. RSI is overbought, continuing upwards. Money flow is neutral, having previously returned from overbought with price's previous very short-term high. ATR has very steeply increased along with price, giving a very bullish outlook for volatility. And as previously mentioned, with this very extreme trend indicated by ADX, it may continue a little bit further, where ADX may remain in very extreme conditions, while RSI and money flow may exhibit some divergence, while money flow may enter overbought again before the trend may be in danger at the weekly time frame. On the technical daily chart for XRP, we can see more detail for price's recent increase, finding resistance at 32, declining a little bit. Volume supports upwards movement on the daily time frame as well, with the pushes on these various bullish candlesticks here. The volume is overall declining for the short term. ADX is now declining, showing no clear trend, though it would not take a lot of upwards movement to see the bullish trend resume at this point. Previously, ADX did increase from a low point and below both DX lines, giving the strongest bullish signal it can. RSI is neutral and declining, having just recently returned from overbought. There is some strong bearish divergence where this indicator makes lower pivots while price closes higher that you saw previously on the other daily chart. Money flow now indicates double bearish divergence where this indicator consistently makes lower pivots here while price closes higher. Money flow is currently neutral, having just failed to enter overbought recently. ATR is steeply increasing along with price giving a bullish outlook for volatility. And as there is no bullish trend indicated at the time of recording from ADX, we use the model of stochastics plus support and resistance at the daily time frame. At this point, we do rely a little bit more heavily on the weekly chart for technical data, though at the daily time frame, the model of stochastics plus support and resistance suggests a downward swing may occur at this point, towards support down at 2 or potentially down to 1.34, where price finds one of these support points while stochastics may enter oversold. This may indicate a deeper correction within the ongoing bullish trend indicated on the weekly time frame and expected through the Elliott Wave chart. And that's all for me with your weekly update for XRP and the Ethereum technicals. As always, if you do want the Ethereum Elliott Wave count, as I mentioned previously, you can sign up for that at pureelliottwave.com using the link in the description below. Thank you, and I hope everyone has a good week.